Well, uh, welcome to the February 24th, uh, 2026 session of TAPR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KB0S, and this week I've been working on cleaning up my radios. I've been doing some configuration file work and continue with that. And it's very interesting trying to get as many different radios working as possible. So that's it for me. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. Well, I've continued advising projects with lots of different projects, with different students being involved, and it's keeping us very busy. We have the DX dashboard our contest and dashboard project with the Frankfurt Radio Club we're working on, and I got those students using Claude this semester. So I think that's really going to help advance that code base. And then we now have a Tuesday morning telecon that focuses on the magnetometer project and on the ionosonde project. And we've picked up, so that's become a more lively telecon too. We have Dave Witten, who's part of that. We've recruited a student, Jackson Conti, last semester, who's been working out very well. We picked up Gerard Pacini as my student who graduated last year, who was working on the ionosonde. He got hired as a research engineer by NJIT, and so he's back working on the project full time now. So he's at that meeting, and we picked up Andrew Rodlin, KC2G, is working on it too, and also working on some machine learning stuff. And there's a lot of things going on, and we've got the HamSCI workshop going on too. We're getting ready for so. All very exciting. Back to that.
Very good. Next on the list is Dave at KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I've stayed occupied somehow, but I don't have any great sense of accomplishment for the last week. I have been trying to, what have I been doing? Been trying to get, trying to learn a little machine learning stuff, especially as relates to edge AI type sensors or edge IoT type sensors. I just kind of like to know about that for my own purposes. I'm I, have a sufficiency of Zooms to attend, and basically just trying to keep up with some of the tools and technologies. Um, Otherwise, nothing that's really pertinent to this project at the moment. But that's pretty much it from me. And back to y'all.
Okay. Next on the list is Bob, WB0VGD. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, good evening, Dave. And yeah, it's a good group tonight. Just looking forward to the Ham Science conference. I looked at the venue and all the abstracts, and Nathaniel's right. It's going to be a good program. It's pretty impressive, actually. Well, the venue. Been doing a lot of work with my channel sounding and actually preparing my presentation for the workshop. So looking forward to that. And we had a busy weekend in Army Mars with one of our big communication exercises, passing strip traffic and emergency information and doing a lot of automatic link establishment HF topics. So had fun with that. And I was playing a lot with PropLab Pro, my propagation predictions versus VOACAP. And I gave a presentation on VOACAP for a group of hams here locally. So other than that, it's been a busy week, and it's nice to be retired.
Yes. Okay, next on the list is Bob W1XP, and the Bobs are giving the Daves a run for their money tonight.
Well, that's good. Good evening, everybody. This is Bob, W1XP. Well, I would complain about the snow, but we've only got 9 inches, and I was talking to a woman down on the Cape this afternoon where they're really getting hammered. She's got over 2 feet. They can't see out any of the windows because of the blowing snow. And so we've got it a lot better here this time. Uh, haven't been doing a lot, but I'm doing some research on a design project. So going through the catalogs and finding what parts are available these days and that kind of stuff. Anyway, back to net.
Very good. So next on the list, we have Clint, KA7 OEI. Go ahead, Clint.
Hi. Just been not been working on any one particular project this week. So, but been watching with interest on what Scott's been up to. I guess he can talk about some of the measurements he's been making. At the Utah SDR, we have a Bodnar that's the main clock, and we're trying to come up, brainstorm ways without having to do a site visit that he could measure how far off the Bodnar was from the actual GPS time. And I guess he'll make a comment about that when his time comes. But other than that, nothing else.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave H, W6OQ. Go ahead, Dave.
Good evening, everyone. Let's see, this week I had a couple of exchanges with Paul on design review of the 888 design he's working on. Other than that, I'm just a fly on the wall tonight. Thanks.
Very good. Next on the list is, let's see, Dave WB9. Wait, go ahead, Dave. You're
Just have trouble with my call.
well, the thing I was reading moved on the list, and so I
Uh,
have
You're fine. You're fine. Now I've just been cleaning up. I cleaned off a desk and I found a Collins S line underneath it. So I'm glad I'm finally cleaning some stuff up. That's all I got for the net.
it's always nice when you find a nice piece of radio gear that you haven't used for a while.
I wouldn't complain about that. Collins under my table. That'd be great.
So next on the list is Jay Schwartz, WB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't complain about an S line either. I got my start at the local radio club that doesn't exist anymore, Kilo 8 Papa Bravo, Quebec. And we had an S line there, and it was wonderful. And I still see them at occasional swaps, and they still bring good money. So keep it working, keep it operational, and just savor it as one of those pieces of equipment that it doesn't matter how old it is, it works and it will work first time, every time, all the time, and it won't let you down. So, yeah, and those of us that have the privilege of working with one, of using it, it's like you don't forget it. It's like playing a Stradivarius violin. You may not, you just don't forget the experience. Anyway, nothing else new ham radio wise. Looking forward to the event. General question for the group. Does anyone know if W1AW is open for visitor operation on Sunday, the day after? I know it would be on Monday, but if does anyone happen to know if it is visitors are available on Sunday or only during the week? Anybody know that?
I think it's just we have it open on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It impacts my travel plans because uh, I think I'm going to stay over till Monday, onto Monday, just so I can have some quality time there and just have one of those stations all to myself
and 20-meter phone or 15 or something like that phone, and just sit there and just zone out on being at the receiving end of a pileup. It's wonderful experience. Otherwise, nothing new here, amateur radio wise. So I'll say 73 to everybody. Stay warm, stay safe. Back to net control.
Okay. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I've had quite a busy week. I've been primarily preparing for the conference. However, I did receive the parts from the replacement parts from DigiKey for the GPS interface boards. That also included replacement M8T modules. So what's interesting to note about the problem that I had before was I used too much solvent to clean the flux off of the board, and I believe that that's what caused the module to fail, and then that also caused the 3.3 volt regulator to fail. Both shorted, actually. So according to the data sheet, the MSL, the moisture sensitivity level for the module, is 4. So that means it's fairly sensitive. So I'm even more confident that that's what caused the issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder everything except the module. I have to put in the new the single gang potentiometer because I had the double gang. So I have to put in the single gang pot, and I have to replace the 3.3 volt regulator. I'm going to clean that with solvent, and I'm going to dry it as best I can. And then I'm going to solder the module, but I'm not going to clean the flux off of that. So that flux is going to stay on there. It's inert anyway. It doesn't hurt anything. It's just it just doesn't look as nice. But anyway, that's a good path forward. And then I could finally test out V2 of the GPS interface board. I will also be having a demo station at the conference with all the boards that I've been working on, everything that I've been working on, so I can actually show it off and have something physical for people to look at. Other than that, non-VLF related tasks, I've been fighting with Comcast, but that never seems to end. That's all I have. Back to the next.
Well, very good. Next on the list is Christina Collins. Go ahead.
Hey gang, how's it going? Let's see. This week I've been working on a proposal to look at solar flares with grape data with Nathaniel and Shibaji, and I'm at the shop right now, so I'm surrounded by 3D printers. The vacuum chamber is running, and we're epoxying a bunch of sensors for another project. So kind of going back and forth, doing zooms and then soldering, and in my happy place. So that's what I've been up to. Back to net.
Very good. Next on the list is Phil Karn, K9Q. Go ahead.
Hey guys, not too much to report here. I'm actively chasing down some obscure bugs that always seem to show up because I don't really have a way of doing exhaustive regression testing every time I do make a change. Other than that, not much to report. Back to you guys.
Okay, very good. Next on the list, let's go Scott Newell, N5TNL. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, let's see, busy week. The FCC sent me a fresh ticket, so I'm good for another 10 years. I ran a couple of 888 personal space weather station gain cal tests for Bill Engelke. Looks like he's got his dB scaling working. I did, as Clint mentioned, a GPS-DO comparison at KD7EFG, and that didn't go as expected. It's showing some very strange weirdness. Let's see, I tried to estimate the PPS sync signal down to a subsample offset at WWV2, and that looked really good. I tried the same at KPH, but no data to share yet. And then I tested my PPS sync signal estimation by using the uBlocks user delay to ramp here at the house. So I was doing like 1 microsecond every 3 minutes, and that did not go as expected. Let's see, I verified the PLL phase logs from K9Q radio were doing what they should be, and I've been gathering up plots and write-ups for Paul's timing injector slides. So I've got plots to share if anybody's interested. If not, I won't. And as Clint mentioned, I do have some numbers from both WWV and KD7EFG. I'll drop those in the chat kind of as a pop quiz, and I would appreciate anybody with a calculator to double check my math. That's plenty from me. I'm out.
Okay. Well, next on the list, we have Shibaji. I won't try the last name because I'll probably mess it up. Any comments?
Sorry, folks. Yeah, I've been here for. I, this is like I'm not a specifically person who can. So yeah, I'm here for just few comments on the solar flare proposal that I've been working with Nathaniel and Christina. Nothing specific about any other stuff. Yeah.
Well, very good. We're happy you're here.
Thanks.
At the end of the introductions, I might if no one has anything specific for me, I might open up a breakout room and just go chat with Christine and Shibaji for a few minutes, and I'll come back to this meeting.
Okay. We have 2 more. Tom, N5EG. Comments?
Oh, good evening, Dave. Just working on schematic capture on the new version of the quad receiver. Hopefully 3rd time's the charm. Back to the group.
Very good. And then we have Rob Robinette. Comments?
Hi, I don't have a lot immediate relevance. I've been data wrangling for the last seems like forever, but it's certainly been several weeks. This is the current stage. This 1 terabyte disk contains a database, ClickHouse database, that has every whisper spot since 2008.
Whoa.
All the whisper demon spots since extended spots since we started recording them in 2020, 6 years ago. And the last 14 months, every FT4 and FT8 spot, every one in PSK Reporter, all on this 1 terabyte disk, which is going to go in a vault someplace so that it'll survive the coming apocalypse. Anyway, that's what that's what I'm working on, and working to get the servers up and in full service. So that's not immediately. Again, now that I've done a lot of databasing, I'm going to bring the topic up again, which is with Scott's new time of flight measurements, we need to come up with the database and a schema for storing that information. As we store frequency offsets, which is easy because they're already part of spots, but this is new data and it's going to require some thought. So I'm going to keep mentioning it to people in the future. So anyway, that's KPH2 is down, and I'm going to power cycle it, Bill. And we'll see if it helps. I don't think it will. Something went wrong.
Have you power cycled yet or just rebooted it?
I did. No, I actually power cycled it. I can remotely power cycle, well, every remote site. And I think this ought to be part of the DAISY deployments.
Definitely.
Is, if possible, is to be able to remotely power cycle any Daisy server. It just there's I'm not sure it helps in this case, but in other cases it has. And I seem to be encountering a lot of 888s that are failing or completely or temporarily. And I'm not sure if it's driver problems. I don't, or, this is end of life 888 problems starting to crop up. I sure hope Paul makes progress on his design, or Tom, either one or both. We just need new designs that we have control over. So back to Ned.
Very good. So I think I've called on everybody on the list. So at this point, we're open for general discussion.
Great. I might just jump in here really quickly. I know Shibaji joined special this evening, so I might just open up a breakout room where I can go talk with him and Christina for a few minutes. But before I run off and do that, does anyone have any questions for me or no? All right. So I'll open that up and then I will talk to everyone else soon.
So Rob, I talk to Michael a lot, as you do, and Michael surely has a strong interest in a timing data structure.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that. I'm looking for someone to define it. I'm now getting very good at creating ClickHouse databases, and they are startlingly fast. And if you design them properly, they are just it's just amazing. I mean, you get answers in milliseconds. It's incredible. But it can take 200 times longer. I reformatted the a 2 billion row database, the Whisper Daemon spots database, and query times improved by in the new schema. It decreased in size by about 30%, and the queries were 100 to 200 times faster. Typical query.
Very good.
So it makes a big difference how you. I'm completely the pupil of Cloud AI on this stuff.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
It sounds like you kind of needed some data to figure out some of these things, though.
Well, Gwen has suggested, a kind of an array, and I think ClickHouse allows it. In fact, it doesn't require an individual column. An array that would consist of time offset and intensity and correlation value. And I think it's only a two-dimensional array. And my understanding is that those can be actually quite efficiently stored in ClickHouse in a single column. They have a column type that allows you to do that. So you don't have to have, 200 columns. You can have one column that has an array of elements in it. I don't know. I have no, that was suggested. I haven't tried it out yet. I haven't had a data structure or a data source to try it out with. So give me some data. I think we're still struggling to get the decibel WWE values displayed in decimal, the intensity in decibels. I think Scott has been. Did you work with Bill Enkelze? To me, it seems like just a one-liner. Someplace there's a GNU plot that generates the strip charts, and when you specify the y-axis, you just say do it in decibels.
I did 2 runs for him, and if you look at the dashboard and look at the first run, it is in decibels, but the next day was back to, the uncalibrated units of whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that everyone's getting very confused about calibration. I mean, we can't really, these aren't calibrated systems. I mean, they're, in a sense, they're pretty repeatable. I mean, I think that Clint did a series of measurements of the gain structure, the in to out gains of 888, as I think, Scott, you've done some. But I think Clint did one, or someone did one, with a selection of several, multiple, maybe even Jim Lill did this, different 888s, and found very small differences in gain and frequency response, at least above the 1 megahertz range. So I don't think that, I think that they're quite repeatable. That but they're never going to be calibrated because there's so many variations in the type of antennas and the signal processing path that's ahead of the 888. So I've allowed people to account for that in Whisper Daemon. There is a way for you to specify the adjustments to obtain to the antenna factor value that is a function of frequency. So you can compensate for the shelving filters or the AM blocking filters that you might introduce. So if you know those values, you can specify them in the receiver definition line in Whisper Daemon, and Whisper Daemon will adjust the signal levels that it reports based upon the raw intensity adjusted by the antenna factor adjustment. But that's only true for Whisper Daemon sites and ones where people actually go in and specify it. And as far as I know, about the only place that does it is KPH, where I put it in. But so I don't think there's much point in I think that it gets users very confused to talk about calibration versus uncalibration in the data from the PSWS strip charts. I think it is reasonable to say somehow that the top of the chart is 0 dBm applied to the RF SMA connector, right, on the input of that. That is not perfectly calibrated, but it's probably within a dB or so of being accurate. And to the I think that that's it's certainly, whatever you use, don't mislead people by saying it's calibrated or uncalibrated. It's calibration isn't a very meaningful word in this environment.
Should I say scaling instead?
Yes, what?
Scaling instead of calibration. Sorry. Okay, scaling.
Yeah, just dBm relative to, basically, well, make a suggestion would be, but it is dBm relative to 0 dBm on the input of an RF 888. If that's a 888 system. Now, I think you can tell that if it's a 888, if you look at it, if the samples are floating point samples, then I don't think any other device uploads floating point sample wave files to the PSWS. So, if I had control over it, where the graphs are, I'd say, test if the sample, or look at the wave header, says if it's a 32-bit floats sample wave file, then the y-axis is 0 dBm relative relative to 0 dBm at the RF input of the 888. If it's not if it's an int sample wave file, then it's just 0 dBm relative to full scale. We don't really know what the sample device is. But it seems very difficult to communicate that through Bill to whoever is managing the PSWS graphics. It seems a very fragile communication channel to whoever's doing those things. Anyway, if nothing else, it seemed to me like it was a single change a line, the command line to GNU plot that I presume it's GNU plot that produces the strip charts.
No, it's a Python, so it's matplotlib.
Okay. Well, then. Oh, well, okay. Matplotlib. It's got to be. There has to be something to tell Matplotlib that it's put the y-axis in dB, in decibels.
Well, Bill's concern was what was 1.0 in the DRF file. How many dBm was that? And that was the point of running the scaling test.
And then I think, Phil, you sent a long and really excellent explanation, but I think it may have just overwhelmed Bill Engelke.
Yeah, I figured that it was probably more than you needed, but I figured at least you could refer to it or other people would refer to it if you need to, because I did put a lot of thought into signal scaling, and I wanted to document that stuff somewhere.
Well, you did a good job of that. I think that I think that it works wonderfully well. I mean, the 32-bit float samples can be compared, across all the 888 sites. They are absolute levels at the SMA connector, and that's I think, wonderful thing. So
Scott and I went over this months ago now, sometime last year. I think we went over and made sure all the levels were consistent in all the various modes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that that made it somehow it still hasn't seemed to, it doesn't seem to have made it to onto the public site. And I don't know what's impeding that process. So.
Well, as I mentioned, for one day it was. I put it in the chat.
Well,
yeah.
It should be noted in a comment in the config file, though, in K9Q Radio.
What should be noted?
What the relationship between the ADC reading and the signal level.
Oh.
I mean, it should be easy. Just put it in the config file, just as a comment. Then you can tell people to look in the config file in case anyone who, I mean, that'd be an easy place to put it. I mean, easier to find that there than in the.
Well, that's up to okay. Well, Phil, I guess that's the request.
Yeah,
take your.
Do what now?
Oh, just put a note in the config file explaining the relationship between signal level on the 888 to the floating to the level, the number you're going to get coming out of the receiver.
Well, that's just a gain.
Well,
I mean, I calibrate the whole thing. Well, for the this only applies to the RX 888. None of the others are calibrated.
Right. Put it in the config file for the RX 888. Just make a note there. I mean, if you've done the work, you might as well document it somewhere easy.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, it's just if you use a 888, the output's calibrated.
Right, to what?
0 dBm at the N10 input plus gain equals the output dBFS.
Right. It'd be worth making a note of that, though, because this question, that and how that relates to other hardware in somewhere in the documentation.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you've done the work, and you can explain why it's applicable on the RX 888, but may not be so applicable on other hardware.
Yeah. Well, I don't write config files, right? I read them. Somebody has to write them for me.
Well, but there's the stock ones. But
oh yeah, there's stock ones. Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, Rob writes config files. I read them.
Okay.
I make a point of not overwriting people's config files.
Right. Yeah.
But your template, you could put in your template.
That's the word I was trying to remember is template. Yes. Yeah. Or add a section into your documentation, add more cowbell to it.
More cowbell. God, everybody knows that reference. It's even in my Tesla.
Yes.
Yeah, here goes. I'm powering down KPH2, power cycling it. By the way, Scott and Phil, the Bogner is attached to the KPH1 server, the KPH2 server. So now
Yeah,
that
I
I've
noticed
powered
that
it
in the
off,
USB list.
yeah.
Oh, so yeah, you probably killed it when you rebooted.
I killed the Bogner got killed. So you
Well,
lost the clock. You
it
got all
should
the clock.
save its state when it gets power again. It should start working again.
Well, anyway, it's timed out here. I think I've had it off long enough here. I'll bring it back up.
I ran across one of those USB 3 hubs that has per port power switching, and it's like $35. I was thinking about buying one and trying it out. Would that be maybe more interesting than power cycling the entire B-Link?
Absolutely. If it's it does introduce another device in the transition chain. So there's benefits and
It's another pair of connectors to go bad. That's certainly true.
yeah. And another device, that may have its own store and forward, right? A hub acts as a store and forward kind of relay device, doesn't it? I think USB hubs work that way. Um, so so it's another point for there to introduce jitter and uncertainty into the transmission chain and packet loss into the that's a there it is. It's responding to pings now. No 888.
Yeah, it
No,
just okay. I mean, I looked at the log at the time and I think I sent you those log excerpts. So when it happened, it's just like it got unplugged. It just completely disappeared.
Yeah, you're right, but
And
it
did
was
not appear at all.
It's 10:30 at night on Thursday. There's nobody there from
I would
Saturday at
assume.
6 till Saturday morning. So it's empty.
But what's going on with DP0 GVN? That hard drive is gone, right?
Yeah, it was an external hard drive that I was storing the recordings on, the uncompressed recordings. It's
Spares
not.
down there?
It's. I just no. Well, maybe. I mean, you can plug any. I just happened to. I had one here, and I just included it when I shipped the 888. I think to Michael. But I don't know what they have. I mean, they, it's storing the recordings for and the SSD, and it can keep 3 full days of recordings there. So,
Yeah.
and they get uploaded. The 10 hertz, 24-hour 10 hertz recordings get uploaded. What we lose is, the historical
Can you
archive
have
of.
somebody down there unplug that drive? I mean, it's still throwing errors into the log, and it's bogging down some of the
How
things I
can
do. I mean, if the thing really is toast, you might as well have somebody
I
unplug
thought
it.
I thought I unmounted it. I
Well, it's
unmounted
unmounted,
it,
but it's still plugged into the kernel.
and I was
It still
throwing.
shows up in disk activity reports,
Oh, okay. Is
even though it's not
there's no
mounted.
way to stop it from fiddling with the kernel and getting
Well, I'm not sure, but when I do updates there, it takes a long time and I'm not sure what's going on, right? I mean, I've been trying to update the kernel and it's gotten stuck and running. It eventually finishes, but it's updating the initial RAM file system and it takes a very long time. Normally, it just takes a few seconds. So I don't know. I think it may be getting stuck on something, even though it's not being used.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I'll send Michael a note. Right. Queue up okay, no, not Michael Holland. Okay. Okay, I'll do that.
The time now is 0240 something UT, right? On the 24th. So yeah, I'm looking in the log and I still see errors showing up in the syslog from that device. I think there may be some background stuff going. Yeah, I'm still seeing that.
Boy, I wish we could control the power on the USB ports of the B-Link. I mean, clearly there's a register someplace that does that. It's just that Linux doesn't know how to talk to it. So.
Yeah, it's not mounted yet. It's still throwing errors in the log.
Okay.
What kind of errors? USB transfer?
Hard device errors, since um, basically low-level driver errors, sense key not ready, that kind of stuff. The ones
I
you've read
wonder,
seeing in the kernel log.
could you blacklist the USB hard drive driver in Linux so that it doesn't recognize any external drives and reboot?
Probably could.
That might eliminate
It's
the errors.
Seagate RSS LLC portable. Is that right?
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you can do it without losing other USB devices, how selective that blacklist would be.
Well, like I said, I'm installing a new kernel. I was going to reboot, although I do so with some trepidation for such a remote site.
Absolutely, yes.
Not do anything after reboot. I think for all I know, there was probably some residual activity or remaining activity that's still trying to complete and may do so forever. Yeah, it's trying to read sectors for some reason. Something is reading sectors. I wonder if there's something in some background activity.
And
like maybe Smart D or something like that.
can I break in here and mention that Paul Elliott's joined us and he may have something of an update? Paul? Paul is reading something, but his mic is off. Nope.
Yeah, it's Smart D that's doing it. I'll fix it, Rob.
Okay, hang on. Let me work on that. Oh,
Now you are. Paul, you got something.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
No?
I can.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. No, I see my audio is getting through here. Well, hi, everybody. Yeah, sorry, I had some family stuff, so it's all good, but wasn't able to get here for the 6 p.m. Sign-in. I've been doing a little bit work on the 888 documentation. Thought I was going to be done by this evening, but I've found much more interesting problems that I decided I really needed to solve, having to do with the time sync stuff. Phil, I got your got the iRig
Oh wow.
format ready to go. I'm still
little bit
Sorry,
of
you broke up.
I don't know.
suddenly sound like you were drunk.
convinced it's going to be all that useful. And the iRig modulation is, that'll be something to discuss. What's the best way to decode it? I've got something I think will work, but we can talk about that when the time
All right,
comes.
you were breaking up for a while there. I don't know if you heard me say that. So you say you got iRig working?
Yes. At least I am transmitting an iRig format message once per second with all the bits in the right places. The line coding, has to be different than what WWV uses and what's specified.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a secondary issue, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, iRig, if you look at the
So
standards, I mean, there's zillions of options. So WWV just uses one particular set of options. You can use many others.
yeah, no, and again, the line coding, since all I have is binary phase shift keying, we need to come up with a method. I'm using what's
It's
basically
fine.
return to zero, where
PPSK is fine.
yeah. So
Just
anyway,
flip it, just flip the phase with an edge and don't worry about it because I mean it'll be implicit in the receiver which edge is which.
yeah,
Because the leading edge will always occur on time at every second apart, and the trailing edge is what will vary. That way you can figure out the polarity.
whether it's one or a zero or one of the
Yeah.
special characters, and that's what I'm doing now. So I just haven't documented it, but what I have been actually working on is doing control of the phase shift, the modulation, knocking the edges off that, rather than doing it with um, a diode modulator and, analog shaping. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to do it with voltage control of voltage to my drivers. And I've got that under control of the digital to analog converter on the microcontroller, and got a little circuit on paper anyway that should do the job really simply and do a good job of knocking off those key clicks. And as I say, so we won't annoy the neighbors quite so much with this signal. And that would be for the beep, for the pulse per second, or for the PRBS sequence. So that's what I've been working on mostly. Starting to get ready for the HamSCI thing, putting my notes together. And I guess that's about it for me. Back to you guys.
Yeah.
It was nice, Paul. It was you saw the never mind emails about the signal quality out at our quality out at KPH. So
So
thank goodness. Whatever.
do we? Yeah, I saw that. I guess I'm happy about it. Do we know what happened?
No, I don't know what happened. I was thinking an
Yeah,
experiment
this
with
says
the.
my internet connection is unstable. I have no idea
Yeah,
I've
why.
Definitely
noticed.
is.
But
yes.
Yes, we've noticed. The yeah, it is unsettling to have a problem just disappear. I was thinking once we regained connectivity there that we might experiment by turning off the injector to see if that was somehow the signal was leaking back out of the sync injector and into the kiwis and disturbing the kiwis. But I don't think that was happening. I've got a problem here. I can't reach Michael Arche. My emails get rejected by the post office, his postmaster's servers.
By the way, I think I fixed my internet problem. My
Good.
laptop was connecting to the wrong Wi-Fi server. You're one at the far end of the house instead of one in the same room where I'm sitting now.
Don't you have them all on the same network?
Yeah, yeah, but
They should automatically pick the right one.
well, you can talk to Microsoft or whoever the hell it is that's driving that. It's above my pay grade.
I mean, it's the way Wi-Fi is supposed to work. If the SSIDs are the same, your laptop will assume that they're all on the same subnet and just pick the one with the strongest signal, and it should hand off automatically.
Okay. Actually, it does have a different SSID, so that's
there's your problem.
Yeah.
Paul,
yes.
So I double checked the data sheet of that GPS module, and I also got in the replacement parts that Nathaniel ordered for me. Thank you, Nathaniel. And the GPS module, the U-Blocks M8T, the moisture sensitivity level is 4. So it's fairly sensitive to moisture. So I'm fairly confident that that's what happened. That I got too much solvent underneath the shield, and that's what fried it.
Do you know? Do you know what kind of isopropyl did you use? Did you use 99% or something lower percentage?
I did not. That's part of the problem. The only thing that I could get in a quick nick of time was 91%. I had to special order the 99%, and so that was also part of my problem. There was some water left over.
Keep that bottle tightly sealed, or it's going to grab water and dilute itself.
Yeah, I've had problems with the water actually partially dissolving the FR4 dielectric.
Wow.
Oh,
when you brush it, real hard.
Yeah, I don't believe that I had that problem. I could have, but it was underneath the shield, so I really couldn't see. But now I know what to do, and now I know how to approach it. Yeah, the short story to that is to always use 99% isopropyl when you clean. Another thing that I was doing was I was using 409 cleaner as a surfactant, which carries away the flux, and that also has water in it, and so I think that that's what happened. Was there was just too much water, and
so how long was it between applying the water and when you tried powering it up?
It was at least a day.
Okay, so I years ago I was in manufacturing. We did some manufacturing stuff, and what was done when the boards were done with all kinds of components on it, they used restaurant type dishwashers to wash the water soluble flux off. And I've almost never seen modern components that were actually destroyed by moisture, on a permanent basis. Typically what they would do though is, use ultra clean water as the final rinse, or just, but I've used tap water because when I repair stuff frequently. I have an ultrasonic cleaner from Harbor Freight. It goes in there. It goes in there with hot water and a bit of dish soap, and that'll remove. That doesn't do anything with the flux, but that'll remove capacitor leakage and all that stuff. I do that routinely, and then high power canned air, and then let it sit for a few days, especially at temperature in a fan. And I've never had it destroy any component, including trimmer capacitors and trim pots, if you leave it long enough and have something without a residue. But 409 is, I think it's slightly basic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you don't want, soap is caustic too, but I don't think it would have been the water itself. I think it probably would have been that water didn't get out of it, or water was still there when it was powered up, and then etched stuff away. Is my guess, because I've done it with RF gear and stuff like that, and I've never destroyed anything just by dunking in the water. So it was an ultrasonic cleaner. After running it with dish soap, I always run it again with clean water, maybe twice, and I've never damaged the board that way. Never have. But you got to be darn sure that all the water is gone, including maybe putting it in an oven at 130, 140 degrees. And one thing is, if you have an ordinary oven in your kitchen with the light turned on and the door closed, it'll get up to about 150 degrees at normal room temperature. And that's not going to hurt anything. That's about like leaving in your car on a hot day. So the other thing too is that manufacturing company, they made this sort of mistake of using water soluble flux. And water soluble flux is rosin flux you can just leave on the board. It's a standard rosin flux. It's not going to hurt anything typically. It's very high resistance, but water soluble flux, is hygroscopic, and it's also conductive. And the worst part about it is if you don't clean it off immediately, when it accumulates moisture from the air, it is no longer water soluble, and it stays there, and until you heat it up to maybe 150, 160 degrees, drive the moisture out, then immediately wash it off. That's one of the manufacturing company that we used made that mistake, and they had to recall a whole bunch of boards because they would fail after a couple of months. Heat them up, put them in an oven, heat them up, and then run them through the dishwasher again. And then they were able to recover the boards that weren't damaged by a metal migration from the conductivity of the flux.
Yeah, I found them actually etch the traces if they're not cleaned off.
Yeah, I've never had a trouble with ordinary rosin flux, but the water soluble flux is terrible.
Yeah, I'm saying the water soluble, if it doesn't get cleaned off, it etch the traces off.
Oh, it is bad. It is bad. I mean, the resistance starts out at several megohm and starts going down and down and down. So you start getting, in this case, we had digital and audio stuff. It started sounding like you were near the ocean on the audio. And then eventually the digital stuff and crystal oscillators quit working and everything else like that. I mean, it was terrible.
Does everyone have a horror story about water soluble flux? Because you're giving me PTSD from 10 years ago. I've been here too.
Oh yes. And I try not to use it. In fact, it's. I think it says in the instructions, "Thou shalt wash it off PDQ," or PFQ rather.
My understanding was that ultra pure water was so they could detect when the flux was gone. That they measured the conductivity of the water and they keep washing until it's an insulator again. Then they know they've got all the flux off.
I could believe that. But the weird thing we discovered was once it has accumulated moisture from the air, it is no longer water soluble. At least not the stuff that they were using. We had a CM that was using it, and once it had what had happened is when your board came out of the reflow, it looked, the little clear blobs looked like ordinary rosin flux. But after a couple months at humidity, which is very slow here in Utah, which is part of the problem, these boards got shipped to places that were much more humid. You would end up with these little crusty spots all over the place that were conductive, and you could not wash those off with water until you heated them up. And so what literally, as I said, what they did was when they got the boards back, they put them in an oven, took everything off, put them in an oven like at 150 degrees or so for hours. It would dry the moisture out, and then they could run it through the dishwasher.
On the moisture sensitivity level, my understanding was that was about avoiding popcorning. That if you've had surface mount parts exposed to the atmosphere, that when you run them through the surface mount, the reflow or whatever, that they explode.
That can be true. Yeah.
I don't know that it's a concern with hand soldering so much.
No, I'm a bit of at a disadvantage here because like right now in my house, the humidity is probably 30%. And in the summer, it's usually like 12%, 15%. I mean, Utah is not where you go for humidity. So, but I have to live vicariously through others for humidity most of the time. But yeah, I think you're right though. But if you're hand soldering, I don't know that it'd be a problem. And also, I think you about have to soak the part in water for a long time before it would do that anyway. I mean, if it's dry, I mean, if you just briefly wet then dried out appropriately, I don't think it would even popcorn. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, where we had the problem with water was if you use something like a toothbrush to scrub the flux off, and there's water in the alcohol, it does bad things to the circuit board material. The mechanical abrasion does it.
Is this with like FR4 or G4 stuff?
Yeah, yes, it was FR4, and the water in the isopropyl under mechanical scrubbing would smear out the dielectric.
I've never had that happen. Because one of the ways that when I've built circuit boards that had to be defluxed, I just generally use either isopropanol. I try not to use rubbing alcohol which is 70%, but I have in denatured, and I just toothbrush it, and then I rinse it off with water that I dried under heat if I'm worried. Blow dry with an air chuck, or I have a somewhere around here. I got it on Amazon, a small handheld blower that is way more wicked than some of this canned air stuff, and that'll actually blow stuff out from under surface mount components. But if you're doing wave soldering, I can imagine you might want to be careful with that. But yeah, I could be biased because we just don't have humidity here in Utah. I do a fair bit of hand soldering the surface mount routinely, and I've almost never come up with a situation where I thought a problem was related to moisture. Tombstoning is the worst thing that I come up with, and that's when you're unless you're using a stencil and have your solder mask exactly right, that's just par for the course.
According to the U-Blocks data sheet, JEDEC defines the moisture sensitivity levels. They have a definition for it. But see, I think the problem here in this case specifically is the fact that this component has a shield which is not soldered all the way around, and moisture could get underneath very easily and take longer to dry than normal. So I think that's the problem. And I didn't bake it for well, I didn't bake it at all. I don't really trust my oven. Um, we have some dry bake ovens at work, which are designed for this sort of thing, um, but yeah, I didn't really trust my oven, but
Yeah, the door shut with the light on is a good reasonable temperature though. I discovered that when baking bread. If I crack it open just a little bit, it sits at 120 degrees or so, which is about the right for growing yeast, about the right temperature. And if I let it close all the way, it pushes it up to just around 150. So that'd be worth checking out if you're wondering. Just having, if you can leave the light, just the light on.
with the oven light on,
Yes.
you must have a hot oven light.
Well, it's a little 30-watt incandescent light in there. I mean, it takes a long time for it to warm up, but that's what I do. That's when I've done bread. That's open it, leave it open a crack, and it only gets up to 115, 120 degrees, which is about right. But if I let it close by the next morning, it's about 150 degrees.
Oh.
I mean, it maybe I have a well insulated oven, but that's about it. But my oven's like 30 some odd years old, so it actually does have. Well, you wouldn't have an LED light in an oven unless it's fiber optic. So
yeah. Um,
but yeah,
I'll have to get a remote thermocouple or something to check. But but the good thing is now is that I know. But I I I think the shield was probably part of the problem, and also the fact that I did not use 99% isopropyl alcohol, and I didn't let it dry adequately. I was kind of impatient because I was going to let it dry for like a couple days, but I really wanted to try it, and that was I think that was part of the problem. So I only let it dry for about a day. So um, now I know better, but yeah, I also have.
Maybe it'll work now since it's been a while.
Well, I removed all the components, so I'm gonna have to solder on the regulator, and I have to solder on the module, but I think it was actual module moisture underneath the shield that did it in. But I also have bad experiences with acid flux, and yes, it does heavily corrode, and it must be washed. At work, we have a washer that I fill with deionized water, and we get pretty good results. But we did have issues when we did not let boards dry for long enough. Particularly, this was a switching power supply circuit. It actually damaged it when it was energized because it did not dry out all the way. wasn't dried for long. So yeah, that's a real thing. But at least I know now. And I'm not going to clean the flux after I solder on the module. I'm just going to leave it on there because it's probably not going to hurt anything, and it's got a high impedance, so I'll just let it go. rosin flux it is, the R0 rosin flux.
You do have to be aware there are differences between rosin fluxes. Activated rosin is somewhat conductive.
I can contribute nothing to rosin discussion, so I think I'm going to bow out for the evening. Go back
Yeah.
to my.
Also be aware there's what's called no clean rosin flux, which is pretty good for just leaving in place.
Yeah. If you don't mind a little bit of a light haze on there. Yeah.
Right.
I've used that routinely. It's not as active as some of the other stuff, but it does live up to the name.
Right. And unless you're really high impedance, it doesn't throw things off too badly.
Looking for the little blower that I got for that now I use in lieu of canned air to clean boards off, but I don't know where I put it.
Hey, I gotta go, but suggestion if you want to clean off a board, I mean, if you want to dry off a board, just use one of those little electric, forced air, fan heaters, um, and put the board down in front of it, let it blow, warm air over the thing. That way you'll get some air motion as well as heat. But I don't have that much experience doing this stuff. So.
I generally found just grabbing a random muffin fan or DC fan and sticking the board in front of it and walking away for a day or two to be adequate. But yeah, the canned air, of course, will get 99.9% of it off. So, because I don't usually use DI water or distilled water to clean it, and if there's no water on there. If there's almost no water on there, you're not going to get mineral deposits anyway.
Yeah, good point. Okay, good night, everybody.
See you, Paul.
Good night.
That is if I can find the button. Okay, good night.
Yeah. I don't see my, I wonder where I put my blower. Huh. But, huh. I know I put it in a safe place. Safe even from me, apparently.
Oh, I get nervous about remotely rebooting machines I can't get to.
This, what, KPH or something?
Actually, I'm thinking about the one in Antarctica.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's already got a sick hard drive, but
Yeah, I've blacklisted stuff before.
I realized what was going on. I was running Smart D, which really I don't need anyway because it doesn't work with USB hard drives.
Oh.
You know what Smart D is? Nice when it works.
Right.
But for some reason, most USB to ATA or SATA bridges don't seem to pass through the necessary commands to read the smart information from the drive.
Yeah, I had trouble finding something that would, on the Windows environment, I had to look around for a program that would actually solve that problem before. But
I mean, go out and read the smart data or run a test
via USB. Yeah, most of them. I mean, you'd get this program. You get the various programs to the hard drive manufacturers, and the Western Electric ones would read about everybody's, unless they were through a USB interface. But I finally found a program that knew how to do that on Windows, at least.
Yeah, I don't actually know how good smart is. I mean, fortunately, knock knock, I don't lose drives all that often. They probably report they're fine right up to the moment they fail.
If my general, well, that's probably true. I mean, I think they're more useful for spinning drives than
Yeah, that's what
obviously.
I.
But I've never run across the instance where if Smart reported that a drive was going to die, that it was actually going to be just fine. If you know, it's one of those things. If it shows that it's about to die, you probably need to do something about it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
whether or not it gives you a usable amount of warning is another matter entirely.
But it might give you some warnings. Therefore, it's still worth running if you can.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I run it.
yeah. But you know, we used to have banks of drives in RAID arrays in a server room, and it seemed to me that the Smart was pretty good at maybe a day to maybe 2 or 3 weeks in advance.
You know, it obviously depends on the nature of the failure, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
I assume normally it's a surface imperfection, but and in order to find that, you have to do a scan on a large modern drives that can take a day.
Well, it. I guess it has to do with the. On modern drives, it's kind of amazing they can read anything. Because they're just kind of right on the hairy edge of the of Shannon
Yeah.
limit, it seems, to get data off of those.
Well, it is it is a communication channel. You're right. It has a capacity.
Right,
What did
right.
I just walk in the middle of, Clint?
Oh, we were just talking about you. Well, the
Hard drive failures and Smart.
Yeah, how
I've
good
been
Smart.
dealing with that all day for the last 2 days because I
So-
just had a customer lose about 200 terabytes of finance data over the last 10 years.
So my general opinion of Smart is that it usually gives you anywhere between a day and maybe 2 weeks of warning.
That's about right. For the drives built in Smart, that is about right. Now, modernly, if you're using things like XFS and ZFS and you've got them set up properly, they will actually keep track of random delays. So if there's random hiccups and delays, they'll take that as saying, "Oh, the drive's controller is doing something. This may be indicative of a impending problem." That can give you months of forewarning if you're on top of it. Smart, you're right about Smart though. By the time Smart is waving its flag, it's kind of too late in many cases.
Well,
At least with spinning
Smart
drives, you could hear it.
running a surface scan might actually give you some proactive protection, right? Because one of the things it's supposed to do is that if it sees some soft errors, it'll reallocate the sector.
Well,
some of the Dell
data.
EMC drives, when they're quote unquote idle, when they haven't been written to for a while, or when the drive controller puts them to sleep, they'll do that internally. They'll start running the heads across the surface of the platters. And if they encounter issues, they'll just check that block is saying this block is bad. Don't
Which
use
drives
it.
will do that?
The Dell EMCs, they're made by Seagate, but they're Dell's
Are
first
they
party drives.
SATA or
They're SAS.
They're SAS. Okay, I figured that's the kind of thing a SAS drive might do.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is since there are parameters in the Smart that kind of indicate how much difficulty it has reading the surface, like number of
Right.
retries again and again, and those just occur normally. I mean, so if you're constantly reading and writing from a drive, all over the place, like just randomly, you probably are, just by the act of reading it, you're keeping the stats are building up in the Smart stats.
Right. And if the drive is smart, so to speak,
Right.
It should automatically reallocate a sector when that happens, and you can count them, right? I mean, it's one of the
Right.
statistics that will give you.
But I can imagine if a drive is just sitting there doing nothing, or not accessing much of it for a long time, you could end up with degradation, probably more to the hardware than anything else.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't realize that you had trouble until you start reading this section of the dusty corner of the drive.
Which is why you need to read the whole surface every so often.
Right. So
hopefully recover data before it's lost completely.
So one of those things, it's sort of ironic, if that's the right word, that a busy drive may last longer than a not busy drive, since that you're constantly reading and knowing the status of it, and the controller can take action to patch things up when appropriate.
In that sense, yeah. I mean, but
Right,
this is a
right.
parameter you could look at, right? I mean, one of the parameters you see is the number of sector reallocations.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, using ZFS on my solid state array, I'm looking right now. It's flagged a drive saying that it had a lot of marginal read writes that are taking 1425 microseconds, which it's